watched Shawshank Redemption?
I watched Shawshank Redemption recently. My daughter never seen it. I think she sort of heard of it, but she didn't really know it. And I said, this is like the #1 film on IMDb. And she said, well what does that mean? So I had to explain what that was to start with. The fact it's been there for years as #1, hasn't it? The most,
it's always in Empire's top.
The highest rating.
I watched this film a couple of years ago.
So she was like, well, I guess it can't be that bad, can it? No, it can't be that bad if that universally loved. I've not seen it for probably 20 odd years, really.
Yep.
I remember seeing this at the cinema, and when it came out, it's kind of famous for being a bit of a flop when it came out.
It was, wasn't it?
And then it found its feet on with video rentals. But I can be proudly looking down on everybody by saying, well, I saw it at the cinema. I think it was Empire Magazine did a 5-star review of it.
Yeah.
And I trust them enough that if they gave this a 5 stars, it's on at the local cinema.
Got to be.
Let's go and see this. Yeah. And my wife was like, yeah, okay, let's go then. And it being pretty dead in there, no one seeing it, and us both loving it and seeing it, lots of times since then. And it's, because like the last 20 years, it's just sort of been forgotten about and not really watched it since.
Well, I watched it during lockdown, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think then, Rob? What do you think after 20, 25 years?
I don't feel like it's aged. I still think it's as wonderful as it was when I first saw it. Morgan Freeman and his voiceover is still just
excellent.
His lovely voice, velvety voice that just draws you in. Tim Robbins, where he's playing his cards quite close to his chest, so you have to read a lot into at the start. Could he be guilty? Even though I know what happens at the end, I still felt myself drawn into it.
And do you know why? I think now I can't think in the day who the bigger stars were, but I always feel Tim Robbins wasn't that mega star, was he?
No,
he was a
well-known
actor, but he wasn't that big. Not like your Chris Evanses nowadays or your Robert Downey Jr.
I don't think Morgan Freeman was either particularly.
I think that's what makes this. I think that's what makes this is that it's not got that big budget attachment to it.
I think when an actor's massive and you can still start having influence on a film, the performances can be a little bit more showy. But in this, it's not at all. I think it's paced brilliantly. It could, because there's horrible things that happen to him in prison.
Yeah.
And that could really bring you down. But it's paced so, it's got some. This is the horrible things from being in prison,
hope, isn't it?
And then you've got the brilliant bit with the rooftop.
Oh yeah,
without the beer.
Roof, yeah.
And then there's got bad stuff for him again, and then you've got another high. So it's just ups and downs, roller coaster.
Clancy Brown's fantastic in it.
To keep, it's not too unrealistic that there's just good things happening all the time. It's not too miserable with bad things. It balances it really well.
Yeah.
It's got great music. It's got a gorgeous score in it. It's really nicely shot, and it's not overly showy or particularly modern in its style. Really, I think it's
perfectly period, isn't it? And of course, Stephen King's greatest adaptation, surely.
Yeah. It still holds up, and that ending is just so. It's just perfectly sweet and
Rob,
wonderful at the end.
The bit that gets me all the time is the old man who's like the librarian, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It takes the time.
Yeah.
You've seen a bit about this character, and you sort of follow him. The film basically just takes a little turn and just follows him for a little bit, and then it comes back to the main characters again.
Is it?
And then even after the escape, because spoilers if you've never seen it, but
30-year-old film in it, yeah.
From the point of view from the escape, me thinking, it's probably only got about 5 minutes left now, but it hasn't, does it? Because he escapes and then, he's gone. And then it stays with Red for a little bit longer, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
And then Red gets released, and then him getting the job at the supermarket, and then him going to the tree and finding stuff. And it follows Red for a bit, and it's just building and building and building. And it's like, it's that thing where you just so want them to get back together, and it's like, please be there on the beach. He's going to all this trouble. He's going to find him. Please for him be on the beach. And then it cuts it at just the perfect moment. It doesn't have them actually united as such, does it?
It's that thing we mentioned with RRR, wasn't it? It's the friendship of two men, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
it is.
Weirdly, for me, I totally agree with everything you're saying there, but this isn't a film I ever say to myself, oh, I must get the 4K Blu-ray of this. I never, ever, ever think of that. But if it is ever on, I have to watch it. And Robert, is it a perfect 10?
It is a 10 film for me. Yeah, I don't think for my personal favorite films of all time, whether it be in top 10, maybe likely to be. Yeah, it is quite high there for me. Actually, rewatching it, realised how absolutely brilliant it is.
Yeah,
and it does that thing for me, which the film that really springs to mind, what Little Miss Sunshine does for me.
Yeah,
where the emotions you get from it is so fantastic. I just think a piece of entertainment, a piece of art has just done that to me, and I don't feel it's manipulated me to make me cry or anything by showing a dog being killed or anything like that. I don't think it's manipulating me. It's the characters that have just make it so overwhelming at the end of it, and it is an excellent. It's brilliant that it does that.
You're making me want to rewatch it again now. an excellent film.
So does it still deserve to be number one? Well, if you look at other films in there, you can go, well, if you don't like sci-fi, you're not going to want Star Wars as your favourite film of all time. If you don't like Lord of the Rings, there's no point suggesting that to someone as favourite.
Yeah.
Someone who's not actually that well versed in watching films, and they're just like, what shall I watch? I'm not a big sci-fi fan. I'm not a big fantasy fan. You could just you can recommend this to someone. Someone's old enough to watch Shawshank Redemption. You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine someone being recommended Shawshank Redemption at work, for example, and the next day they're going, no, I didn't really like it? I can't imagine it happening.
No. I watched a YouTube review of it, and what I really liked was just a small bit is that they say in possibly a modern movie or another movie that's not as good, you'd see Andy Dufresne, which obviously Tim Robbins' character, he wouldn't get beaten up and he gets abused, doesn't he, anymore? But actually does, and that's what shows. And they say in the film, don't they? He says, "I wish that was the end of it." But he gets his knocks, doesn't he? He did. Normally in that, the character stands up to the bullies, and then that's it. But it isn't that, is it? It's more realistic.
And it doesn't dwell on it by making it, it's not trying to be like, it's not like, remember that British film Scum? It's not like that, is it? It's not trying to make you, it's not trying to make you like, oh, this is Christian or horrible. It's still playing as mainstream, right, isn't it? And it feels, I mean, it's an old film anyway for us, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it feels like a classic film. It feels like a film from like the 50s or the 60s. It's been around forever. It feels timeless. And I think you can watch this film in 20, 30 years.
Very much so. And also,
I think it'll still be just as good.
He plays the long game or the long con, because he does the books for the warden of the prison, doesn't he?
Oh,
so all
brilliant.
of that. Really. Anyway, Rob, we better stop, because otherwise we'll fill a whole podcast talking about